Hi, my name is Ari, and I'm so happy you have chosen to watch an episode of our podcast, the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. I was inspired to start podcasting as a kind of shift that I had from the dance world into journalism. I grew up dancing ballet, and I have performed with the New York City Ballet, Miami City Ballet, at Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and in Madison Square Garden. So my overarching experience in dance has really inspired me to open up conversation that affects and influence our mental health. We have experts from every field to just talk about things and to find some level of growth, grace, and gratitude within each step of our evolution. I also want to mention that we have spiritual courses available for anybody that wants guidance on their spiritual journey. And if that includes coaching, we have a lot of guidebooks about inner child healing and mental health support and relationship guidance. And for students, we have great tutoring for writers who want to build on their journalistic skills or who want to publish their first novel, who want to work on their writing in general. We have courses in dance, ballet, yoga, and Pilates. So whether you are advanced or brand new, our classes are held on Zoom, and we have options for personal classes or group classes. And for writers, there's also an option of the typewriter. So if you have a typewriter that needs repair, we can repair that for you. And if you need a new typewriter, you can purchase a beautiful typewriter and start the writing process at your own pace. If you would like to have me on your podcast or would like to be a guest on my podcast, or if you want us to answer your questions in an upcoming episode, please send us an email at growthandgracemindset@gmail.com. If you like our shows and they resonate with you, please consider giving our show a rating of 5 stars. Give us a comment, follow, and just enjoy the episodes. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your journey with us. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast, where we talk about all things mental health, wellness, positive psychology, inner child healing, spirituality, and so much more. And today we will be discussing a little bit about confidence and specifically men's confidence and how to live a healthy, balanced lifestyle with a special guest. This is Shawn, and he is a confidence and overcoming anxiety coach for over 3 years. And he has started to focus more on helping men since 2022. And currently, he is helping men become more confident, secure, and powerful in who they are, specifically in areas of self-mastery, relationships, dating, social circle, purpose, and wealth. And his mission is to empower men and eventually heal the collective. So what a beautiful altruistic message of
Thank you.
like helping. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Ari. Pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, it's so awesome. And it's interesting how you mentioned that there are so many areas when it comes to being a mentor, being a coach. And what areas have you found so far that you feel like men do need the most help or support in?
So the biggest theme that I would say was, in fact, even the biggest theme of my own life, which makes sense why I attract so many men on similar life paths as myself, similar lessons that we're called here to learn in the human form, is self-worth. Self-worth is the core right there. That's the core root of what I help men heal with and overcome, and to be able to then integrate it into society, in their relationships, in their social circle, in the way they show up in their personal brand online, making money, entrepreneurship, all of it. A lot of how we put ourselves out there, that confidence that we see, that aura that we can feel in other people, that they emanate, that comes from having a very healthy sense of self-worth. And that's really what we focus on.
That's fantastic. And it is very true because so often I feel like even men and women, when we have self-worth issues, we kind of lose our path. We kind of lose focus towards what we want to achieve or what we want to go towards. And I think it might be different ways for men and women. You can answer for the men's side. I feel like for the women, in terms of like self-worth, it's a big theme, and it does kind of come down to feeling your best, and that takes accountability. That takes kind of like courage to looking at yourself in the mirror and be like, where can I become better in all these areas of my life? It's like, am I a good friend to my inner child? Am I trying to reach my potential? Am I being a good friend to people around me? Am I contributing to society? So I feel like that might be similar to men. Is it?
Well, the thing with a lot of the conditioning that has been passed down from generation to generation for men is they have conditioned men to believe their self-worth is based off how much they can do, how much they can achieve, how much they can create, doing, which is the masculine, right? There's a healthy key component in that, but that's not what defines your self-worth. What defines your self-worth is, well, from a spiritual perspective, we already are worthy. We are worthy just by being. We are worthy just by being here. But sometimes when I'm working with students who haven't really reached that level of understanding and consciousness yet, we use a lot of thought laddering, is what I call it, to be able to ladder themselves up into different thought processes that can eventually get them there. And this is all part of the cognitive reprogramming process that I do with also the spiritual values. So, for example, if someone is super attached to their self-worth being based off their body image or how much money they make or the amount of women they've slept with, I am able to show these guys, okay, well, yes, you are worthy the way you are, but right now you don't really even seem convinced about that yet. So let's not even start there. How about let's define your self-worth based on internal qualities of yourself and what you like to bring to the table in health, wealth, relationships, lifestyle. And that right there just opens up another perspective of how they can think of self-worth in a way that is now more inner focused. And also, how do they
Yeah,
want to define their self-worth too? Because self-worth is just a feeling that, or lack of self-worth is just a feeling that you're the only one experiencing at the end of the day. You're the only one who's thinking it and feeling it. Nothing outside of you can define that based on the way you think and feel about yourself. But
that's
you
a
still
great
are
point. That's so
worthy.
true.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, you still are worthy even when you do have those low moments. But to feel that sense of self-worth within you starts by having a practice that is internal, where you can continuously, strengthen the neural pathways of the brain to create new thoughts for your nervous system, for it to become a part of your being that you feel worthy already based on the way you believe and think about yourself. And that's really what we focus on.
That's a great point. Very, very true. I know when I grew up dancing ballet, we did have those disciplinary kind of classes. And I think it did help to kind of reprogram the brain, like you mentioned, the neural pathways. Such an excellent point because when we have that spiritual practice, this kind of like grounds us, connects us to ourselves, to the core and the center of our self. And so many times when people have anxiety and they go back to like that gut brain axis, that connection, that when they feel kind of lost in their intuition, so many times there is an imbalance with the digestion. And that's like when the gut and the brain, when it's connected in a healthy way, there's a kind of like a higher level of intuition that happens. And it's interesting how when I remember we had so many rehearsals that after a certain period of time, when we had like daily rehearsals, we kind of would obviously we would be physically stronger, but I also feel like we were mentally and spiritually happier. So I think there is something about having that like physical meditation practice, some kind of practice to help ground you. So yes, I totally agree. That's a great way, especially with the masculine men. What are some of your favorite ways to ground? What are some of your practices that you feel really help you align with your inner self?
So for me, and then what I also will encourage, I always actually encourage my students to, I give them options and see what works with them and what doesn't. But for me personally, journaling every single day. I do a brain dump, and then I also do some gratitude, just I guess like visualization, but not but on pen and paper, if that makes sense. Like I'm really descriptive of like how my day is going to go. I am very um in tune and curious about what's going on in my mind that may be creating unease within me as well. So I do a lot of brain dumping through journaling. And then what I also do is I do this one practice called the model of alignment. And the model of alignment is a formula that one of my mentors taught me that I passed down to my students. And it's a formula that essentially measures your subjectivity into objectivity. It's very interesting. So, for example, let's say, for a student, um, he meets a girl, gets her number, she doesn't text him back, right? That would be a circumstance. So it goes circumstance, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. That would be a circumstance. So girl doesn't text back. That's a circumstance. All circumstances are neutral. They're free of subjectivity. All that is it's just data. There's no information behind a girl not texting the student back. It's just data. That's all it is. It's just data. So then what's the thought that they're having about that circumstance that's unintentional? What's the thought that's coming up? And then next is feeling. How does that thought make them feel? And then the action or inaction, because I consider inactions to be a form of action as well. What happens because of that? Do they binge watch television? Do they eat junk food? Do they avoid dating for the next few weeks because of that one instance? And then the result is essentially not the external outcome. The result is always in your control. It's what you make meaning out of the action. And that result is going to be confirmation bias to the original thought at first. Now, you can either use this formula unintentionally or intentionally. You can use this formula of CTFAR, circumstance, thoughts, feelings, action, result, unintentionally to raise awareness of how your thought is being manifested into form on a day-to-day basis. And you can also use it for creation, for manifestation, because you're always manifesting, whether you're intentionally manifesting or unintentionally manifesting, you're always manifesting. And then you can use the same exact formula by using the same circumstance. So again, like, girl didn't text back, right? What's a better thought to have about it? It's all good. There's more out there that I can go talk to. Bam. How does that make you feel? Well, the feeling is motivated, maybe happy, excited, uh, even just neutral. Like, hey, it's all good. There's more. There's more people out there. There's plenty of fish in the sea, right? Um, and then just the feeling, behind that thought is just feeling good, really feeling good, feeling confident, grounded. That's a better one as well. And then the action for that is go out there and meet someone else again. And the result is I get to continue the practice of building my confidence with dating, you know? So that's just an example of how that would play out. Each student's going to be different. That's some of the thoughts that I would use back when I was working on my dating confidence as well. So so that's like my main core foundational practice that I give all of my students. And then as far as other practices besides journaling, also,
Can I just
um,
actually add something to that?
yeah, go for it, go for it.
Okay, so it's so funny because I actually recently created a like spiritual dating guidebook, and I actually, funny enough, I would tell the guys who join the group not to text. So your example was kind of funny because from my perspective, I would, because some guys would actually be like, should I text or not? And with how I feel, I guess if you're in the long term dating space and you're looking for kind of more of a serious relationship, I would advise them not. That's like tip number one or two. Like, you don't have to text. Like, texting is not. That's why it's so interesting because like the expectations that we have, what is that from? Where does the belief system, lead us to? Where does it come from? Because I literally said like point one or point two, don't text, call, and make the date either by phone or for safety reasons. Obviously, you want to do like FaceTime or meet in public somewhere that's like safe. So I would even tell them like don't text because that creates so many confused expectations and you go through a series of anxiety. Obviously it's anxiety inducing because there's no clarity, and when it comes to especially dating, and we want that clarity, and when we have the masculine take that first step by providing clarity, it creates such a beautiful opportunity for that space of like manifesting beautiful partnerships. So I think it's an interesting point you brought up and how it does really mess up the mind. So yes, go ahead. Go to your, if you want to do your next
No, but I love what
meditation.
you're saying here, though. I love what you're saying here because I'm all for phone calls too and text messages. For me, it's about the energy is really what's the most important. So,
Right, it's like
when it
intention
comes,
based. Right.
right, exactly, the intention behind the text message, the intention behind the phone call. If that is being done in an authentic, aligned expression, it's all good. It's all good, whether it's a phone call
Yeah,
or a text message, because it's the energy behind the action. So no, I love that you brought that up,
totally.
though. I love that you brought that up. Yeah,
Okay,
because it's
great.
and that's the whole point of the model of alignment as well. Because let's use you like business for example. Two people could be on the A line of the model of alignment that I just brought up, could be working really hard, but one could be driven by fear and pressure and external outcome and expectation, and they burn out and they feel not good enough and they get tired and they're miserable and they feel caged up, versus another one could still be doing the same action, but they feel playful, they feel joy, they feel love, they feel in tune with the work that they're providing out there and the services that they're providing to others. And that all begins by our perception, how we want to see everything. And that's really where we begin with with my students. Everything begins in the mind, and we focus on that while also doing the practical and the actions. So it's so important to understand the energy behind the surface level actions.
Yeah, that's really great. I think when it does come to like going through trauma, because I think so many men also go through a lot of healing cycles when they're evolving and trying to become their best self and to like to find their self-worth, to kind of maintain that level of self-worth. It is it's a challenge in today's society. What are some tips that you have for yourself or your clients to sustain that kind of self-confidence, so you can be a strong man in today's society and live a great life, happy life, and feel fulfilled even when you do have anxiety, because it comes in waves, but we do have to manage it.
So it's not about maintaining self worth, it's about becoming mindfully aware of the thoughts that are blocking you from feeling worthy in that moment. Because the whole process is about unlearning and unlearning and unlearning until you can feel it in your heart.
Okay, so
So,
what exactly is the unlearning? Like, what are you unlearning? Like the fear-based
so
stuff?
for example, sorry,
Like, are you unlearning? Do you mean like all the fear-based programs, like from childhood,
yeah,
like
all the
that?
programs that don't serve you. Yeah, because when you're living at your fullest authentic expression, you're doing it because you know you're worthy of that. You're trusting yourself. You're knowing that you can walk to the beat of your own drum and you're not missing out on anything, or you don't have to get to an end result by a certain time because you are already good enough already. And it's not about sustaining that image. It's about, yes, like using the intentional thought process to give yourself affirmations and mantras and new perspectives that you can practice in your mind until it becomes a part of you. But life's always going to provide new challenges. God is always going to give you a new challenge. God in the universe is always, whichever lingo you like to use, nature, universe, spirit, God, will always provide you with a new challenge, with a new level of uncertainty for you to step into. So it's almost like, yes, you practice the new thought patterns and the new feelings of being worthy enough to walk your own path, have the things that you want in your life, own your desires, but also be detached from the outcome. So you already feel good enough already. So you're ready to receive it, right? Like all of these
Right,
practices helps you maintain that self worth. But as more challenges come in, because if you're someone who's always continuously growing, there's always going to be more challenges. It's still the same lesson that applies, but now to a heavier weight, just like lifting at the gym. It's just life. And life is always going to show you a pattern of programming that is blocking you from being able to step into that next challenge. And I guess when you say maintain, I hear the word dance because it's a dance between stretching your soul and your nervous system to be able to take on new things and feel worthy enough for it. But in order to stretch that, you must be able to also have the self mastery skills to look within and understand what stories are blocking you from stepping into that next chapter or that next level of that
that's
answer your
that's
question
great.
or did
Yes,
that
and yeah,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, and it's so
Good.
interesting how you mentioned that. And I do think that when we do kind of become aware of our patterns, I think that's the best way to, in a way, maintain or sustain our level of like self-worth. Because obviously we want to have self-worth, but even when we don't, we still have to try to ask the girl out, or if you like him, ask him out. You know, you do still have to
Mm-hmm.
kind of like participate in the integration of your soul, your ego, to continue living your life. So I do think, especially when we are struggling with our self worth, those are the most challenging times to kind of like have those positive thoughts and be like, oh wow, I don't have any self worth today. That's fine. I'm gonna try to be my best self. And if I fail, I fail. That's fine too. That's that accountability. And it's like we obviously learn along the way, and I think we're supposed to do that. We're not, asked to be perfect because we are ever changing, ever evolving, ever shifting. So it is interesting that, and so many times when we do have our lower self-esteem, we even make sometimes really great choices because we're like, okay, well, what else do I have to lose? I'm just going to go for it. So it's that, belief in yourself has to prompt you to keep going, to inspire you to keep going. And I remember that, like, I was going to ask you also, like, what would you change in your lifestyle? And what did you have to, like, stop doing in order to be more confident? So I'm going to say, like, for me, I had to kind of, like, change more than a belief system, but also kind of like the physical reality because I think
Yeah, the
the
expression. Yeah.
physical reality, it's like, that's going to lead you into your next choice. So I had to kind of like change my circle of friends because not all the friends were like supporting me and I wasn't really supporting them as well. We weren't kind of compatible with our friendship. So to become aware of that is one thing, and then to take those action steps to kind of be like a break up with your friend kind of thing. That's also difficult, but I do think those are kind of important steps to take to when you're shifting and when you're seeing that you're not very happy or you're not living, like you mentioned before, like an intentional lifestyle. I think that was a really important part.
That's amazing. And I appreciate you sharing that as well because, like who you hang out with influences you, you know? So being able to be around people who have similar values as you, values is what brings people together, and that's important. So the question you asked me is like what physical changes I made
Yeah,
in
yeah. So
confidence?
like, would you have to stop doing something in order to kind of like feel your confidence kind of come back to you, or feel like more confident once you stopped doing something, or you had to like shift in a way that felt in a way that you were kind of like lacking in a way because you felt like it was preventing you from being in that same like physical reality
Yeah.
that yeah that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So again, like I always think in terms of the mind and then the expression of it comes out. So what I'm hearing here is a lot of letting go. What patterns did I have to let go of in order for me to feel more confident in myself? Uh, Huge one, people pleasing. That's a huge one I really had to deal with. People pleasing in my relationships, being careful with my words so I don't step on other people's toes. And then when I started speaking my truth more and more from understanding what belief systems were blocking me in the first place, understanding that and then slowly letting go of that fear of being looked down upon by others, that was the biggest game changer for me right there because that bled into the success for my business. It helped me be more proactive to be able to go out there and network and onboard new students, go out there and talk to more girls and date them and become a better communicator in my relationships and also just expand my social network as well. So
Fantastic.
But
Yeah, that's a really big thing about like people pleasing. That's huge. I feel like so many of us who are actually like empaths, we were kind of like brought up in a society generationally to people please. It's kind of been the cycle for everyone. So to kind of like we mentioned in the beginning, unlearning, that's part of a big unlearning process. It's like, wow, you have to stop people pleasing and being authentic. That feels risky, and it is risky in the beginning because it feels like, what if everybody is going to reject me? Like, that's fine, that's part of the process.
right, learning to be okay that not everyone is always going to be happy with you, and that's okay.
Right.
That's okay. And then sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. It's all good. It's always all good. And when I really started feeling grounded in that, I started communicating a lot more authentically. I was less careful with my words, and I just felt calmer as an individual. And I still have my moments, by the way. Just because I'm the coach here doesn't mean I'm perfect by any means. Like, I'm still human.
I mean, yeah, we
I'm still
are
human.
we are like naturally emotionally codependent creatures, whether creatures of habit or we cling on to certain people or emotions or timelines or circumstances. So it is a lifelong kind of discipline and challenge for us all to relearn, to heal, to process. It's an all
It's
integrating
generational.
experience.
It's generational, and it's really learning to program our subconscious mind to understand that we don't live in a primal, dangerous world anymore, at least out here in Western society, of course. We don't live in that. We don't have to hunt for food anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we just go on DoorDash on our phone and just get it delivered right to our homes. But the mind doesn't know that.
We still gotta
But we
hunt to
can
get the
change
money.
that. But we can change that with subconscious reprogramming. And by doing that, that is when you're able to really understand that, like, you have everything you need, and you're always going to be okay no matter what. And yeah,
Totally, totally.
there's there's safety in that. And when you feel safe, then you create more room to thrive and to expand.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Sean, for coming on the podcast. I had a great discussion, and I feel like our listeners are really going to appreciate a man's perspective, talking about confidence and helping them go through their daily struggles of healing and just humanness. Where can people connect with you and see your content?
Which is at Session94 on both Twitter, or now known as X, and Instagram. So at S at sign SHESHN 94 on Twitter and Instagram. And Ari, it was my pleasure to be on here today. Thank you so much for your time, and I really enjoyed being on here today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was awesome.